All right, welcome in, everybody. The times they are a-changing in Duval County as James Gladstone and Liam Cohen and Tony Baselli, we're not just going to all put this on James Gladstone, are taking a hatchet to the roster and shaking things up. You wanted change, Duval? You wanted Balky out? You got it. And with change comes different points of view, different decisions, and maybe not the ones you would have all made. Anyway, good morning, Tom McManus.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Good to see you.
I'm excited.
It was nice to see you last week at the J Fund.
Yes, it was.
Because I didn't see you on Friday.
That's right.
I took the day off.
Another great event.
I had the equivalent of like 2 glasses of wine the whole night.
Oh, really?
I realized drinking champagne. But the same thing. But I had like the equivalent, because, they pour a little in the bottom of your glass.
Right.
It's not like I'm just like falling down drunk at the end of the night and I can't make it in the next day. I just like to have date night with my wife and not worry about it.
I'm giving up wine for Lent, but I'm going to drink whiskey instead. No.
Extra whiskey. Tony, good morning.
Good morning.
You're still here. I'm still here. I'm happy about that. 1010XL has not made any major roster moves in the last 24 hours. But, I mean, look, you go from, okay, Christian Kirk is gone. What does that mean? We didn't hear anything about Evan Engram, so maybe he's going to come back. To Christian Kirk is being traded to the Houston Texans of all teams, and we'll discuss that. And then, of course, the news comes on Evan Engram and several others, including Ronald Darby, Devin Duvernay, Josh Reynolds, all expected to be let go. Haven't gotten the official word from the Jags, which, by the way, we should have brought this up yesterday when they announced. That's why we phrased the question, Jags decided to release Christian Kirk. They hadn't released him.
Right.
There's a possibility somebody comes and says, hey, we'll give you this for Evan Engram.
Sure.
Right? And make that deal, and probably not the other guys. Although Devin Duvernay is an
less
interesting
likely
one.
with Engram than it was with Kirk. But
Maybe. I don't know. He's more well, they're about the same, I guess, affordability-wise. Why do you think it's more likely?
Because tight end is tight end and wide receiver is wide receiver in the NFL. And I think it's likely that even teams that may be interested in Engram will wait, right? And even Kirk, who's a wide receiver and not a bad one, when he's available, got as little draft compensation as you can get. A 7th-round pick next year, right? Like, that's as little as anyone can give up, basically, in a deal like that.
It is.
Engram, if they are going to get something for him, it would be along those kind of lines again, which I would be fine with. If they could get a draft pick for him, good.
Here's the one thing I just hope that transpired. Like, I get you. It's almost like you send the bat signal out, right? When you put it out there, so-and-so is going to be released, right? Which is like, hey, come and get him.
Right, so if you want him, come get him.
Come get him, right? But, okay, so I presume Houston's probably the only team that called him, right? Because why would you, if you had an option to trade him, say, to the NFC, for the same, like Tony said, so a 7th-rounder a year ahead is the lowest you're going to get, okay? So, like I know there are a lot of Pittsburgh Steeler fans that were waiting for Kirk to get cut, like we're going to get Christian Kirk. They're like, man, where were we? I wonder, did James Gladstone go through? I don't know what the process is like. Do GMs then, do they just say, all right, everyone knows what this means. If you want him, come get him. But do you go, hey, look, man, I'm getting ready to trade this guy for a 7th-round pick a year from now. You got a 6th that's burning a hole through your pocket, or even a 7th, because you're trading him out of the division. Then
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't know. I can understand. Like, Kirk's got a ton of talent. We loved him. He was great when healthy, but. The both those injuries were coming down from leaping up to catch a pass. Now, the one he had the twist and he tore, like you heard his oblique, right? They're freak. I don't want to say he's injury prone, but I'd be concerned about him getting injured again. I would. So I understand, whatever. I understand why Houston took him with the whole Dell situation. I get that, right? Hey, let's see if he can stay healthy.
It's 1 year.
Yeah.
If in a year we feel good about Dell and Kirk walks fine, and we may be able to get a draft compensatory pick if he signs anywhere. Like that, from their perspective, there's not a big risk.
And I also get Liam and company saying he's not a fit for us.
Or he's not a fit at a $24 million cap hit.
It's time to move on.
If you look at their numbers, and I'm not trying to disparage either one of these guys. They've been good players. They've been, with the exception of the arrival of Brian Thomas Jr. last year, they've been the best offensive skill guys that Trevor's had to throw to for the last couple of years on a consistent basis. But they weren't consistent last year. If you look, Evan Engram was on a pace. He played 9 games. He had 365 yards in 9 games. He was on a pace for under 700 yards. He had scored 1 touchdown. So if you look at that and you say, okay, Liam Cohen's offense is not going to be as reliant on a high-volume tight end pass catcher. He wants those two-way guys like a Brenton Strange, right? Like a guy who's a physical inline blocker in the run game as well as capable pass catcher. Well, if you're doing that in an offense that's more tailored to your skill set, what Evan Engram did last year, what kind of numbers do you expect him to put up in a Liam Cohen offense?
Yeah, I don't think I don't think he's a fit with like just what you're saying. You know, my thing is, look, the reason I was kind of surprised is he might not be your prototypical tight end in your offense, but he's still a weapon.
Right.
You know, put him in the slot. I mean, not like a slot receiver, but use him in the slot. Put him wherever.
Why not play him like a big slot?
He's a mismatch. He is. And someone's going to – I don't know if they'll trade for him or what they'll give if they do, but someone's going to get a weapon. And he's hungry still.
Someone's going to get a dog, according to Evan Engram. As you said, all love, but, you just let a dog loose yesterday.
Rough.
Josh Hines Allen, hard to believe. Couldn't believe the Christian Kirk deal that went down, probably because it's in the division. The fact that he got traded there. I did see one report yesterday that indicated that the Jags were going to get some of the dead cap hit, more relief on the dead cap hit on Christian Kirk by dealing him, but that doesn't seem to match up with what I'm saying. You go to all the sites on what the cap savings are or what the dead cap is the same as if they had released him. So I don't know if it's just a matter of, hey, we'll take a 7th rounder, because look, once you release him, he may choose to go to Houston anyway.
True.
And maybe Houston gets him on a more team-friendly deal if there isn't a ton of competition for his services. So, if once you make that decision that he's not a part of your future and you're going to let him go, you don't really control where he ends up anyway.
That's right. And like you said, Houston's got to be the only team that wanted to trade for him. Look what they offered.
I would presume.
I mean, think about it. I mean, come on. Like, nobody else has got a better draft pick to offer for Christian Kirk if you want him.
Well, that's the thing. You're getting 1 year at a price that you may not be willing to pay. Like, you may look at it, but then again, somebody pointed out yesterday, Tutu Atwell gets 1 year, $10 million.
Right, I saw that.
Okay, and I saw somebody make a comment along the lines of, well, this goes to show you what people think, that there's not a lot out there wide receiver wise. Now there are a couple of vets, but do you want to, in the case of DK Metcalf, Seattle's asking price supposedly a 1st and a 3rd, and he wants $30 million a year.
Right.
Good luck. Right. I mean, Devontae Adams is either going to follow Aaron Rodgers or go to the West Coast or go to there's a limited number of spot. Not everyone is going to be in the Devontae Adams sweepstakes. So maybe that was an indication, and maybe Houston looked at it like, this guy's a perfect fit for us to replace Tank Dell at least for a year, and maybe Tank Dell can bounce back.
Look, and Chris Godwin, I'd be excited if the Jags were in on Godwin. He's coming off a major injury. A major injury.
Right.
And, I've seen people writing about it. The year after the ACL, he played, it was slow. Right? Like, his return from that was slow. I don't know if the ankle thing's going to be the same thing for Godwin, where it may take some time, even on the field next year, before he's Godwin again. I'm very much in favor of the Jags being in on Chris Godwin, but when you're looking at the actual options that are available in free agency, a wide receiver, it's pretty thin.
Yep.
Right? Like, there's just not all that much that's out there. You have to figure out a guy that fits what you need, like specific things that you want or need. I think you might be able to find it. Yep. But even those options are going to be thin, and it's not exactly a deep draft at the position either. I do think the draft is pretty deep at tight end, right?
Yeah, I agree.
It's deep in interior offensive line. Yep. It's deep in interior defensive line. There are spots where the Jags are going to need help, where the draft is going to be a big part of what's going to help them figure out exactly what this puzzle is going to look like.
Yep.
So they have to have a plan for what are they going to focus on next week. Right, Monday when they can start calling people, what is the first call?
I'm sure they have a plan.
Yeah,
right. I mean, and they probably have a sense whether they've got a shot with Chris Godwin. And the reason to be excited is you saw how productive he was in the first half of the year with Liam Cohen running that offense down there.
Yeah, just got to make sure about the health. But yeah, absolutely, he'd be a huge asset.
Right. I mean, the Bucs are working to. They extended the deadline to sign him,
and now they got $60 million to spend.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
It's increased by over 33%,
which is again weird. Like, I went to I think it was Over the Cap first, right?
Okay.
And because sometimes they don't put the update in until the team officially announces the move, right?
Gotcha.
So they had the cap space, I think, through yesterday on there, right? With Mitch Morse retiring and everything. And so then if you add it up, Engram and Duvernay and Darby and Reynolds, all those guys coming off, it came to $64 million. I don't know what, these numbers, you know what I mean? Like, so the Jags have maybe 60, maybe 64 to 65 million. So they're somewhere in the top quarter of teams now in terms of cap space.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to build through the draft time, this team's got to fill some starting holes in free agency.
Major needs. But you're right. Having that behind you is a great thing. There's no doubt about it. You can go after who you want. You can offer them what you want. With that kind of money, you should be able to grab 2 starters, don't you think? From free, whatever position.
Absolutely.
At least 2. Maybe, get a third.
We're talking about Drew
pass rusher off the bench or something.
The center from Atlanta. That maybe he's not a fit like his style of center, right? But even if you signed him, he's more of like a pulling.
They do zone. Yeah, they're a big zone blocking scheme. Yeah.
So maybe he's not the ideal fit, but the idea is, all right, let's say he's the top center on the market.
Right.
Maybe he's going to get $15 million. Okay, that's a quarter of your cap space.
Right.
You can get a corner for $14 million, $15 million. You might not get your number one choice, but there are several good ones out there. So you still have half your cap space left, and you filled 2 starting spots.
Right. That's what you do at free agency, right? You bring in guys that help you right away.
You almost have to. I mean, I don't want to have to go into the NFL draft thinking the Jags need to find 2 starters on the offensive line that have to play right away.
Yeah.
No,
I agree.
So
totally agree.
Now, then again, maybe they go out there and they sign some mid-level guards that are kind of like stopgaps, like, hey, you're not guaranteed a starting spot. Here's a little bit of guaranteed money. You're going to come in and compete.
Right.
And, when we draft Tate Ratledge or whomever, he's coming for your spot. So just know that, But, look, it's going to be fascinating to see. Jags do have a little bit of cap space to play with, and we'll talk about that a bunch today. A big day for the Jacksonville Jaguars, agreeing to trade Christian Kirk, deciding to release Evan Engram, Ronald Darby, Devin Duvernay, Josh Reynolds, over $60 million in cap space. Mitch Morse announces his retirement. So a lot of holes on the Jags.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.